Good morning, everyone. Scott Soldat Valenzuela, Executive Director of AAEE. We want to say thanks so much for joining us today. We really appreciate you taking time to learn more about recruitment. And just to give a couple of updates, we are in our conference planning season. If you're interested in joining one of the subcommittees, we have about 10 committees that help to plan the conference. We also have the call for proposals open for the annual conference in October in Pittsburgh, October 27th through the 30th. The career fair registration will be opening soon, and that is on Monday, October 27th from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. in Pittsburgh. And last is, if you haven't renewed your membership recently, we'd be happy to connect with you and help you to do that as well. Today, it's my pleasure to introduce Jamie West, Instructional Recruiting Partner, and our featured speaker today. And I'm just going to turn it over to Jamie.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Scott. Thank you to everyone who is logged in today. I do want to quickly make sure, since we are having technical difficulties and some time confusion, it is actually 11 a.m. Eastern time right now. So versus registration versus advertisements may have been a little confusing. So we are in here slightly early, and I do want to apologize for any of that confusion. So if you do watch this later, because of the time confusion, I'll do my best to maybe not be so live in my presentation. I do want to go ahead and thank you guys for sharing time out of your day today to be with me and go through some exploration of recruitment. I do see a lot of familiar names on here. And since I can't see your faces, since this is set up as a webinar, I am going to ask you guys to enter some information in the chat, just so I know that you're following along and that you are here. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and I'm going to ask for some participation in that chat if you guys can see my screen. So please either enter in the Q&A or chat that you can see the Let's Knock Recruitment Out of the Park screen. It would just be very helpful. All right, I see some stuff coming in the Q&A. Awesome, thank you. I do really appreciate this. So we'll go ahead and get started, all right? So those of you who do not know who I am Jamie West. I am the Instructional Recruitment Partner for Lake County Schools in the heart of Central Florida. I do see a few of my fellow Central Florida recruiters on here, so shout out to Orange because I see you and Volusia. So our district size for Lake County, we have 6,000 employees. 3,000 teachers. That actually makes us the largest employer in Lake County. As an employer in Lake County and a company, we are the largest. We also have 44,000 students across 50 school sites. We are opening a new school each school year for the next few school years, just like every other district in Florida, just about. So we are constantly growing, where obviously the need for recruitment and innovation are very, very high. My career in education kind of ranges. I've been all over the place in just my career after I graduated high school to now. But I have been a substitute teacher, a substitute manager for our district, an HR specialist, a non-instructional recruiter, and now an instructional recruiter. So that's just my world in education and where I've been in the last 10 years in education. So we're going to go ahead and get in the swing of things. And obviously this is baseball themed because I'm obsessed with sports and it is spring. So here we are. We're going to implement a recruitment strategy today. We're also going to learn how to create a diversified marketing strategy as a group. We're going to go through some recruitment event ideas, virtual, in person, kind of all over the place, just to give you something to take away today. And we're going to, go into home base at the end with those building meaningful candidate connections, touch points, candidate personas, and kind of deep dive into what that looks like a little more. All right, so let's start with implementing a recruitment strategy and what that looks like in 2025 in K-12 education, because it is very different all over the country, but this is kind of just a twist on what we do here in Lake. So you want to think about your target audience, who your audience is. You want to create a plan for recruiting that specific audience and have a purpose. Be intentional in your entire recruitment strategy from start to finish. For example, right now in Lake, our largest audience who wants to become a teacher are career changers. Very rarely do we actually get someone who has a degree that says elementary education. It's far and few between right now. So what we get is we get a lot of people who go out into the private sector and want to change careers and come back into education and share that knowledge with the next generation. Because of that, we have this enormous community of career changers who attend a influx of different events that we host. And we'll talk a little bit more about one of those events. It's called the Become a Teacher Pipeline. It's a webinar series that we do twice a year, spring and fall. And what that is it's really to create a pipeline for us to use and recruit these people to get into education, whether they start as a sub or a teacher assistant to then later become a teacher. So we have a target audience for our area, which is career changers, and you'll see me talk about that persona a few different ways. When I sit down to create a recruitment strategy on how I'm going to engage with these folks, I think about the pipeline, what their journey is. As a career changer, what do I want to know before coming into education? My only experience in education, let's say, is as a student, right? A lot of that is what we're getting in our candidate pool at the moment. So because of that, we have to be really mindful and have a purpose in mind and be intentional in our recruitment strategy. So, like I talked about, those career changers, that's our heavy hitter across the board. We do get some college graduates who have those degrees in education, but not necessarily match up with what they want to do, or they don't know where to start. A lot of degrees in education now don't actually include an internship. And so, because of that, we get a lot of people who have no classroom experience, but have the coursework that they need, right? So we're here to also fill that gap and get them where they need to be. We have a lot of experienced teachers that retire from other states and come to Florida. I would not say that's our bread and butter, but it is a good chunk of our community because we do have a nice little corner of our county filled by the Villages. If you've ever heard of the Villages, largest retirement community in America. And we do have a handful of teachers who retire from different states to come here. And we have job hoppers. Job hoppers are just what you're going to see a lot of in 2025. So when you're thinking about your district, where you sit, and your location, and the types of people in your community, and the people moving to your community, they really should fit into one of these 4 categories. I would love to hear from you guys if you have a different persona category that your candidate pool comes from. Feel free to go ahead and pop that in the Q&A so I can see it on my other screen. All right, so we're going to kind of use an example here when we're talking about candidate personas, right? We want to know who the candidate is, and we kind of need to categorize them, right? That's really what a persona is. You're creating this group, right, of people that these people fit into this mold. They are in this category and kind of just sit in this category through their pipeline in your pathway with them, per se. So one of the great ones is we always talk about veteran teachers. We have a lot of them and they're starting to kind of job hop. They're kind of starting to reevaluate their career as a teacher. It happens usually about 15 years in, right? Sometimes a little closer to 20, and they retire to Florida. So we get them. So we think about some of these veteran teachers, they could be anywhere from 35 to 55 years old. That's really, you have a lot of teachers starting at 22 years old, right when they graduate college and have done nothing but teach. So at that point, they've already been in the profession for over a decade, and you've been able to see a variety of changes within that past decade, especially with everything that's happened in the last 10 years in education. So you have a very seasoned teacher because of their experiences in the classroom and the influx of different things they've had to experience professionally and mentally and physically and emotionally in the community and in the world, right? So think about that person, that veteran teacher. Where are they coming from? For us, they are coming from New York, Ohio, Michigan, Tennessee, Massachusetts, Texas. Those are really common states that come to Florida. Obviously, we have Florida on here because we have a lot of people who move to Central, just to be a little closer to our lovely bordering city of Orlando. And then also, what is that candidate pool's expectation, right? We need to meet them where they are, and that should be part of our strategy. So our pain points are going to include something like housing and real estate. That's kind of tough, right? They're moving here. Or if they're already here and in Florida, that still is a pain point. We are experiencing some crazy economic things happening in Florida. And so we'll get a lot of them just asking about relocation assistance. That's a big one. And how we're going to overcome that. You may be able to offer that in your district, whereas we cannot. You may not hear back from them. If you've kind of created them touch points and created that program, and we'll talk about what that looks like, be understanding that you may or may not hear back from those people, even though they're continuously applying for your jobs. So think about this person and how to create a strategy around them. Maybe not the veteran teacher. Maybe you have more college graduates because you sit near a university. Create a profile for that group of people and answer these questions that we have here on the screen. You will also have a copy of the slide deck, so please don't feel like you have to take a picture of every slide. All right, so after we kind of talk about who the person is, right, who our target audience is, we also want to create a plan on recruiting them that is sustainable. That's a big thing in education that it's hit or miss, right? It's really hard to sustain things for a long period of time. Budgets go up and down, turnover, it can be really high at times. So making sure that you have a plan in place after an event, before an event, or just recruiting in general that is sustainable. Who am I building the event for? Who is that target audience? That's kind of what we've already talked about. And is the audience attending the event, or am I just inviting them and they're ignoring me? Those are data points that you want to download and things that you kind of want to follow. And using a CRM like HubSpot or Sprout, some of those CRMs can be really helpful in telling you what's working and what's not working. So implementing a strategy, this is a little more of a breakdown of different candidate personas. So you have internships are a big strategy for us, and then our virtual recruiting and marketing. Internships obviously are going to be for interns specifically, right? Their goal, we already know, is to teach. We're just helping them get to that point and connecting them to a principal that they're comfortable with. Veteran teachers, we are in Florida attracting those out-of-state teachers, right? So we need to kind of mold and be attractive to them and kind of sell them essentially on living here. That's kind of the goal when we market to that group. So implementing that recruitment strategy. This is a really great example that I have for you guys. It's a little, little outdated, but it is the kind of job fair dashboard that we were using for a little while. We use something really similar now. We don't even have to plug anything in. It just does it for you, which is great. But you look at the overview of your recruitment season and looking at that data and using it to figure out what's working and what's not working. If you take nothing else away from the first 15 minutes of me talking, it should be to create some type of dashboard for you guys. Easy to do in Excel. If you don't want to download anything fancy, use Canva, all the things, you can do this in Excel. You can do this in Microsoft and it'll just plug it all in for you. So it's really nice to be able to know what your attendance rate is, but also the amount of people who are ghosting you. What's working? What types of events are working? What types of candidates are we attracting? One of the things that we love to look at in Florida, mainly because the DOE always asks us these questions, is the certification level of our candidates. Where are they at, right? So we have people who are on temporary certificates and professional certificates. Some people haven't even gotten to that point. So we have categories kind of certification levels, and that's something that we always ask people when they attend one of our events on the registration screen. So that way we can track that, and it helps us figure out what types of people that we are attracting, and what types of people are moving to Florida, where people are. This is where we figured out that our bread and butter is career changers. We have an enormous number of temporary certified people right now in Florida, and figuring out what types of areas that they're interested in are another capture point on your registration form. So we always look at last year's data. We always use that to forecast future openings, day one openings, as we call them in Florida as well. What our registration questions should be are kind of focused around our previous year's data. We like to figure out what this trend is, right? We only know what's working when we capture data continuously and asking the same questions at similar events. And so that way we can actually figure out who our audience is. And that's really step one. And then we figure out how we're attracting them, what types of ads are working and things like that. And we'll talk about that in marketing. So you want to create a very diversified marketing strategy. I know that's very vague, but you have to be a little more creative in 2025 than we used to be years ago. So, a lot of smaller districts can still do traditional marketing methods. It's not something that I prefer to do, but sometimes it works. So, do what works best for you, your district, your state, your location, and go with it. And obviously, your budget. One of the things that always sits on our shoulders in recruitment is budget. Unfortunately, that's what drives a lot of decisions in school districts, and it's something that we have to always think about. So traditional marketing is typically going to be less expensive, but also could not be because it's harder to track. So what I mean by that is you have call outs that you could do, which is very manual, time consuming, and you're paying someone to do that, right? So is the ROI really there for call outs? You also have newspaper ads, flyers that you can post and share and put everywhere. You can post them on school campuses, at the city library, different places across town. Also radio commercials. So these are all traditional marketing methods that are very hard to track the ROI to find out if your investment is actually worth it, because the data that it's giving you isn't very clear and isn't very detailed. It's very basic, general data. So if you do a radio commercial, I know a lot of companies now, especially in Florida, are these massive companies who own like 17 different radio stations in the area. What they'll do is sometimes they'll send you a dashboard of kind of like a dashboard that tells you, how many call-ins or how many people that it touched, right? How many people heard this ad, how often they heard it, where they're from, things like that. But that doesn't ever really tell you what your ROI is. It just tells you that you reached people. What they do with that is what we don't know. So it's really up to you guys what you're comfortable with. The pro of traditional marketing methods is that you're reaching the non-tech savvy people, the people who are not sitting scrolling on their phones looking for a Facebook ad. They're listening to the radio on their drive to work and they're reading the newspaper every morning. Those people still do exist. Most of them for us are our non-instructional support staff folks, not as much teachers. So just, kind of seeing what works for you and your community is going to be how you develop that strategy. And you can do a combination of many different things. And that's trial and error. That's recruitment, right? We don't know what we don't know. So until we try it, we're not going to understand if it works or not. So some modern marketing methods that you guys can try if you have not already are going to be social media ads of any kind. Facebook and LinkedIn ads are fantastic. They have built-in analytics that you can download by the day and know how many people have shared it, liked it, clicked the links, scrolled past it. It's just fantastic. Love, love, love the data that these systems spit out for you. You can do emails, and you can do it as simple as doing a Microsoft Word mail merge email if you would like. You don't have to have a platform like HubSpot and MailChimp and all these different free email platforms. You could go simple with it as long as you're still getting the message out there to that target audience. You can also look at Indeed hiring ads. A lot of local districts use them. They do have fantastic data as well. I just know that they can be costly. So be mindful of that ROI again when you're thinking recruitment. And then any type of event platform marketing. For our events, we actually use a program called Rate and See. It used to be called Brazen, if you've ever heard of it. We use it for all in-person and virtual events. So it holds all of our registration data. We can download all that data. People can upload their resumes to it. It spits out marketing for us if we buy their marketing platform. And so it will reach people outside of platforms like Indeed. They'll use different platforms like ZipRecruiter and do ads on there for us. Sometimes they'll throw out ads on Monster and different websites that we don't typically use as a district, but because we have their program, they partner with those sites and can do that. So think about maybe an event platform marketing program, because almost all event platforms, Eventbrite being one of the largest ones in the nation, they also have a marketing platform that will spit out data for you. One of the biggest pros of modern marketing is reaching people where they are. A big motto of mine is meeting people where they are. I say that in every single presentation you'll ever hear me do. And that's really what it's all about in 2025. We have to meet people where they are. If that means that I have to work at 7:00 p.m. on a Friday night, then I'm going to do it because it's where people are. So as recruiters, it's what we live by. Just understand that you are going to have algorithms and analytics and different things that help you with these ads and help you with these emails. And it just takes a little bit of time to figure out how to understand and read that data when it is spit back out at you. And in my opinion, there's really no cons on my list for modern marketing methods. The biggest con that you're going to see is budget and internet trolls. Those are really the only two. And that's me like really trying to find one. So just be mindful of that as well. All right, so we have a variety of different ads that we run all the time. One of the things that really is just the best marketing help to any recruiter in any field outside of education, inside of education, teachers, everyone. We absolutely love Canva. I think everyone on today's event loves Canva. And it is just fantastic just what is there for you already built out. You just have to plug in your information to these templates. So a few of these we have customized, but we have a variety of different ads that we run for a variety of different reasons, events, all the things. But every single ad listed here is a recruitment ad of some kind. So we do run these on social media. They're constantly changing. We don't always run the same one twice. But these are all specific to events that we have posted. We never, ever just run an ad that says we're hiring. We want to invite them to something and hire them there. We don't want to just say, apply now, because it feels very cold in today's market. We've learned that if they want to apply, they'll just go apply. If they want to get to know you and learn more, that's when they're going to engage with you. That's when they're going to click on an ad. So that's one of the reasons we design ads the way that we do and link. All right, so another good sample, these are actual events. These were Facebook ads that we ran. We had some monthly hours that people could log in and ask certification questions, and that's for employees and non-employees. That's just anyone who has a how do I become a teacher question. I have a bachelor's degree, what do I do with it? And then we have the hiring events. We have different promos that we do over summer where you can network with principals. And then we, again, have more support staff type hiring ads. All right. And then one of the other things to think about besides just running ads is how you're going to run a successful event, right? So we've learned the strategy and how to implement it and start the recruitment process and what we're going to do, right? Like we're going to invite people to an event, right? We're going to market this event to the best of our ability to our target audience. Now we need to actually host a successful event. For those of you who are not event planners, this can be really tough, and it can be kind of scary. So you want to make sure that you host an event that is very welcoming. And one of the things we do at Lake is we always host it at one of our schools. We have 50 schools to choose from, and they're all fairly nice. There's at least 3 under construction at all times, so those are always out. But the other ones have great parking. We look at logistics. We look at where our market is, who's registering. We look at the school that has the capacity to hold the most people without having any fire marshals mad at us. And we make sure that it is accessible from any major roads. Being where we are, we're so close to Orlando, yet far away enough that we can attract people from the area, but we also attract people from the coast, north and south, and we have a lot of different turnpike type roads in our area, but aren't necessarily in our county. So they'll spit them out in our county and then they just need to be directed where to go. So we have enough major roads that go near us to choose from. So when we select a school and a location, we are very mindful as to why we select that school. And we want to make sure that the building it is in is very easy to get to. That's a big thing. Parking at schools on Saturdays can be tough. And you want to make sure that your signage is clear and people know where to park. Otherwise, they're like pulling in and there's gates everywhere and they're closed and they don't know what to do. And so sometimes they'll just leave. And you need to make sure when you have an in-person event that logistics and parking are something you have thought about. It took us a lot of trial and error to get there. So when we think about third base, which is where we are now in our recruitment strategy process, we think about the types of events that we want to host and why we want to host those and when, right? There's a lot of questions that we need to ask here. So one of the biggest pluses to virtual events is you get to meet the candidate where they are. They can attend in their pajamas with their screen off. You could be in your pajamas right now, and I would have no idea. So the nice thing about virtual events is that you can meet them where they are. They could be parents who are maybe even sitting at their kid's baseball game trying to text chat somebody in a virtual booth. You never really know, so it's really nice because you can catch that group of candidates. If you host an in-person event, I'll tell you what, we get more hires on the spot at an in-person event than anything because they are truly meeting their future boss, essentially, right? You get a better feel for that principal, a better feel for that fit in that school, in that environment when you are meeting with them in person. So we kind of get the best of both worlds. We have a lot of in-person events and a lot of virtual events, and then we do these hybrid events where we market them and split them up. Our biggest event that we do for teachers specifically is every April. And in April, we have our large annual teacher job fair on a Saturday at our largest high school. That way, we have all the capacity and parking that we need, right? And then the following Wednesday, we always have a virtual component for those who could not attend in person. So one, we're making this accessible and meeting people where they are, and they have multiple opportunities. They can attend both. We have people who will leave the in-person event and they're like, I interviewed with some principals. I didn't take any of the offers. I wasn't really sure. I kind of want to keep searching and keep meeting people. Maybe there was a school that wasn't able to be there at the in-person event, but they'll be at the online event, and I still have questions for that school. So now that person has 2 options to not only find out more about Lake County, which is what we want, right? We want them to get all the information they can, but to make sure that they make the right decision And that's really what the ultimate goal is. The worst feeling is when you get hired as a teacher and you feel like you're stuck at that school and maybe the principal left over the summer and you have a new admin. You never really know what's going to happen. So we want to make sure that you have met all the principals and interviewed with everybody that you were interested in. That way you have no second thoughts when you make your decision. And I think that's one of the initial reasons why we started the hybrid events, to give people more options and meet them where they are. So, hosting events versus attending events. This is always a hot topic for us because here in Lake, after Esser decided to, close off and we all lost Esser, we had to kind of reevaluate the ROI and the reason why we're attending so many events. But we get maybe one resume, one person who actually will be a fantastic teacher after driving 4 hours to a college and sitting there for 4 hours talking to a variety of different candidates who, one, had no idea where we're located. So we're trying to sell them and attract them to Central Florida. And two, a lot of them just don't have the interest in moving. And so we were taking all this data and all this information back to our district and saying, I don't think attending these expensive events and driving this far is really worth the ROI here. I think we're going to go ahead and focus on hosting our own events. And that was a decision that we had to make after Esser. And so we put most of our budget into hosting our own events. And that way we know who our candidates are, we know who our audience is, and we actually have had a huge increase in attendance on hosting our own events because of how we have started marketing them. So just be mindful of what's going to work best for your team with budget and time. It's always great to be there for candidates. You want to meet them where they are, but sometimes they'll just come to your events. If they want to learn more about Lake, maybe instead of attending that college event, ask that college to share your event marketing with their students, and they'll maybe come down and attend that event. We see that happening a lot more in 2025, the further we get away from the COVID effect. All right, so the differences between growing your own and using an external candidate pool. So I always love talking about this because you want to invite everybody when you're planning an event. You want to invite every single person you meet on the street, every single person who already works for your district, right? You, as a recruiter, want to recruit them all. So one of the biggest tools, and we've heard this a million times in education, is a GYO program. You have to grow your own, and you end up with the best teachers because of it. Our Grow Your Own pool really comes from one or two different major places. One, our substitute teacher pool, huge asset here in Lake County Schools. Second, our teacher assistant pool. Our teacher assistants love what they do, and they bond with their students, they bond with their schools, they love their environments, and they're there every day for a fraction of what that teacher is making. So we help them as much as we can with certification, giving them discounts from partnered schools. They are able to sometimes bypass an internship or take classes at night or whatever they need to do to get that bachelor's degree. So we use that Grow Your Own pool as our number one teacher recruitment pool. And it has really helped us build strong relationships and engage with that pool so significantly that our retention is the highest it's ever been. So think about a Grow Your Own program if you don't have one already. Another thing you can do is maybe your CTE program at your district has a teaching academy. I know one of our board encounters, shout out to Kimberly, who's on from Orange. They have a Grow Your Own strategy for a teaching academy. We do as well, and they're awesome. These are students who can enroll as early as their freshman year in high school to learn how to become a teacher and get college credit while doing it. So really great asset to have in your county if you don't have one, and to think about that further. And then always think about that external candidate pool. So external candidate pool is obviously anyone in the community. That is going to also include the parents of your students. If you've never thought about inviting them to events, I do every event that I have, and a lot of them try and reply and say unsubscribe. And I'm like, sorry, that's not how it works. You're a parent, so I have your email anyways. But it's always really nice to have them at events, especially because if they don't necessarily want to become a teacher, sometimes they just want to be more involved. And so the message is still the same. We all have the same goal. So even if that's not your ideal candidate pool in your community, it could be your ideal candidate pool for more involvement, which principals will always be on board for. All right. So, how do you measure a successful recruitment event? This is just a good sample and a screenshot from an old, old Excel spreadsheet that we had. So, we love to track data here in Lake. My boss, Kiana Peterson, who was the old recruiter for Lake, if you've ever heard of her, this is her handiwork. She absolutely loves data and she uses it in all realms of recruitment and retention. So if you're not downloading data and tracking it to find out the number of people who are attending your events, please do so. That is how you figure out if the money it took to recruit at your own event and host your own event was worth it. And this is how we proved to our bosses that we were able to say, nope, our own events have a lot higher numbers than us attending events. So data is going to be your best friend when you are trying to figure out where you should be spending your time and money in the realm of recruitment. All right, so we're on home base now, okay? We're running home. We are going to close up this session so that way we can have a little room for Q&A here shortly. So building meaningful connections, that's not something I have to preach too much to this group. With all recruiters and retention specialists on here today, really the biggest thing to think about is one, how are you currently contacting your candidates? How often are you contacting your candidates? When are they being notified? So this is specifically focused towards events. When you are planning an event, what those touch points and what those connections look like overall. So how you're communicating, how you're getting notifications out. Maybe you had to reschedule, or maybe there was a time error, right? We've learned that that does happen. Maybe there's a time zone difference. And so things get confused on registration versus what an ad said. So when that happens, make sure that you are texting your candidates, you're email blasting your candidates. Everyone that is registered, maybe the event platform that you use notifies them automatically when you make a change to the schedule. So be mindful of how you are communicating with them because that is going to be their first impression of your district is could be this event. You're going to make sure you make a good one. And I don't have to preach that to all of you. You all get it, I'm sure. So you always want to make sure that you determine your format for that communication, that you share relevant information only. So a time change, maybe an address change if you change schools, maybe, oh, be sure to log in directly at 5:30 p.m. The webinar starts then. So, just maybe the relevant, important pieces is really all you need to share. It does not need to be lengthy, does not need to be a novel. They've already registered. You already have that piece completed. You just need to continuously build that connection and avoid them ghosting you, right? That's the goal. And you want to always, again, remind them about the event in a variety of different ways, calendar invites. You want to always send them reminder notifications, sometimes text them, and emails always work as well. And then always invite them to another event. So definitely kind of like how Scott did when he did the intro for this session. He said, oh, don't forget Pittsburgh this fall, So always think about shamelessly plugging your other events because the likelihood of them attending while you have them captured in this event is pretty high because they hopefully had a good experience today. Thank everyone for attending and then always have that post-event communication. When people leave our events, even if it is a virtual one, we email them within 24 hours and it could just be a huge mail merge email that just says, hey, want to learn more? Or here's the slide deck from today's presentation. That way you have them while they're still a warm lead and you can keep that connection alive. So lower that barrier for entry, which is your registration form. You want to make sure that, again, you're not overdoing it. Collect what you need to collect. and tailor make it for each event. We have gone over this already, so I won't stay on this slide. But limit the questions as much as you can. Collect what you need to improve your event. And trial and error, right? We gotta, if you think 7 questions is too long, maybe pick 6 better questions. Maybe reword them where you can just condense them, right? So again, that trial and error. And then how frequently you're communicating, like we talked about pre-event, post-event. It's okay to be annoying. You already have them, right? They're right here. They're this close. They want to learn more. You just have to remind them that you're there, right? For them to learn more and that they did register for this event. And then contact those no-shows. That happens, right? We get no-shows. And a lot of times we're angry that they're no-shows. We're like, oh, they ghosted us. Obviously, I'm not going to contact them. Unfortunately, as a recruiter in education, you don't really have a choice, do you? So we're going to make it personal when we contact them. Say, hey, Joey, thank you so much for registering for the event, but unfortunately, we missed you. We're going to make sure that we invite you to the next one. So 1, click here if you have any certification questions. Click here if you want to register for the next event on blah, blah, blah date. So it's engaging, it's personal, and it gives them options. So you don't always have to ask them, are you still interested? But if it's been one of those, like maybe you've had one ghost email, right? Haven't heard anything. Saw in HubSpot, they haven't clicked on anything, then maybe you wait and you do another email and still don't hear anything. Then maybe you group those people together and send a quick email that says, hey, are you still interested in Lake? I'm glad to stop annoying you, but we do have opportunities that may interest you. And again, shamelessly plug another event because that's what we do. And then hopefully you can kind of draw them back in by scaring them that you might stop emailing them because secretly they might like it. And then provide those options. Always provide options. When you send an email and it just says, sorry, we missed you, let me know if you need anything. Do you think they're going to let you know if they need anything? Probably not. But they will click on your links if they're there and if they look pretty. So just be mindful of that. Always leave options open. People like options. It's just where we are in the world. All right, and I made it to 10 minutes left, which was my goal, so right on time. And you'll be able to plug in some questions in the Q&A. And I'm gonna also have Joey unmute, I believe, if he's logged in, or Scott, and they can field any questions that maybe they see that I don't in the Q&A as they come through.
Well, Jamie, thank you so much. I'm really honored to be here. And Scott, I'm not actually able to turn on my camera per the meeting logistics, but I can absolutely start by saying that this presentation, as I have been able to learn and grow with you in this profession, really summarizes and encompasses the incredible work that you're doing in your district in Lake County and the ways that you're helping to uplift and elevate the entire profession by enabling us to see the ways industry and marketing and this great technology that we have available to us are in fact key for our ability to do this great work in recruitment. So I appreciate the opportunity to have invited you on behalf of AAEE here to this presentation, to this webinar, to lead your colleagues, to teach, and to create this opportunity for us to really think about how we're going to optimize recruitment moving forward. So thank you so much, Jamie.
Of course. Thank you for having me, for both of you guys. I absolutely love talking about recruitment. So if this slideshow actually looks familiar, I did it very similar version of it in the ballpark world at FastBus. So I know Kimberly Wood, who's on here from Orlando, she's probably seen it with me doing this presentation multiple times. So I am sorry if you've seen it before, but I do always switch it up a little bit. I did actually see a couple of questions, so I'm going to go ahead and answer them out loud really quick, if that's okay with everyone while you still have me. I do see that Kimberly wrote in the chat, for Grow Your Own, a para-to-teacher program, fantastic, fantastic programs. So in Florida, we are, I mean, privileged with just amazing public education, not just at our public school system, K-12, but our colleges just do great things for our students. And trying to figure out how to get more kids into teacher programs is kind of hard, right? So one of the things that our local university, UCF, had done recently, really a few years ago, and it's just grown a lot more across Florida. UWF has a big program, UNF has a big program, and what they are current paraprofessionals. So for us, we call them teacher assistants, who can enter into a para-to-teacher program, usually extremely discounted. They don't have to take time off work to complete the program, and they get the credit every single day. For their coursework while they're working. So there's a variety of different types of those programs out there. So whatever state you're attending from today, be sure to research them in your area. Contact your Department of Ed, contact your local universities and see if they have something like that in place, or even recruiters across your area to see if they've heard of anything. Because every state's going to be a little different. So I don't want to, preach too much about Florida and how we do things because we're very different. So just be mindful of that when you are looking at those Grow Your Own. Para-to-Teacher is a really, really great program that I think a lot of people forget about. Those teacher assistants want to do more and want to go further, especially if they've already fallen in love with those students. So just be mindful of that as well. And the one other question I do see, actually I have a few in here. Marina Rios asked, what's your favorite marketing strategy for bilingual teachers? So for bilingual teachers, a lot of what we do is we kind of upload most of our stuff in a variety of different ways, but it is all ADA compliant. It's all mobile optimized and mobile friendly. So let's say, for example, someone uses our event platform, which is Rate and See, on their phone. It will translate everything to the language settings on their phone. So they does have that opportunity. Now, when we go out to events or when we host our own events, my favorite's when we host our own events. We actually have 4 people in our HR department who speak Spanish, which is major, major population in Central Florida. And so what we do is we have these really fun little buttons that they wear and they walk around. They have to be able to see their button. It says, Yo hablo español. And so we will point them out and they're stationed in a variety of different places at our events. So we have them near the check-in area and we have them near the HR question booth. We have them in the certification booth. So that way they're kind of there and principals know they're there. They look for those pink bright tags and they'll literally go, Nilda, I need your help. And, come have that person translate for them. So principals use them and I think they really have helped a lot. So again, really fun idea. I can even show you the little buttons that I made on Canva and they're very bright and pink, so you can't miss them. And then I do see one from Rhonda that asks, how do you get others to help for the in-person event? So that's kind of vague. So I'm not sure if you mean other people from your team, other people from the community. So I'll kind of answer it broad. For our team, they're kind of, when you're hired in Lake County as an HR specialist, you're basically agreeing to help with events. That's something that we do in our department. We're just really close knit. The girls on the other side of both of these walls are hearing me do this whole presentation. And they love being a part of all of the events that we do because they're going to be the HR specialists for those employees. They get to meet them in person at these events and they get to meet their principals. We get to see each other, right? We get to leave the district office. So that's how I get people. They just say, hey, do you want to go do something outside of the office? And they're like, yes, please. So I don't really have to do anything extra. Most of the time, my boss will approve overtime for them to work on a Saturday and do an event and do different things. So principals will do the same thing school site wise. If they need some extra hands, they'll sometimes ask a content coach or they'll ask one of the team leads, like an English team lead, because they're looking for an English teacher to help her with some interviews that Saturday. So it isn't necessarily always incentivized, but they do know that there's so much fulfillment that comes from these events. People look forward to them because they're fun. We have really fun events. All
That
right.
is stellar insight, Jamie. Thank you so much. And what I love about this community is that I see so many names that I know, people who
Yeah.
we've been able to interact with. And so thank you, Rhonda, for that great question,
Mhm.
Kimberly for another question, and all of those who have participated today. I know that we are coming up on the end of our time, so I want to make sure to put in one more plug for our upcoming conference. AAEE is going to be coming together in Pittsburgh for the in K-12 educator preparation, recruitment, and retention in our annual conference later this year, which also includes a job fair. And I encourage everyone who's here today to continue to engage with AAEE by joining us from October 27th to the 30th in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where the theme of our conversation will be building bridges, connecting knowledge, communities, and futures. So Jamie, thank you so much for being this stellar teacher in the space that we've had today. And I appreciate everyone who's participated in the webinar through their questions, through their time and their attention. Scott, I'll pass the baton back to you.
Just want to say a quick thanks again to you, Jamie, and Joey. Thanks for joining us from the board of directors from AAEE today. And we really learned a lot today and really appreciate your knowledge and experience and willingness to share it. We will have this recording on our website, and an email will go out to everyone who attended and everyone who signed up, letting them know that it's available. And please watch your email. We have more webinars planned in the coming months for AAEE members. And with that, I'd like to say thanks and have a wonderful week. We hope we helped you kick off a holiday week, and we'll see you soon.